drives past in open evenings, and I drive past in open evenings.
Yeah.
Seem to be very, very busy.
Yeah, we're a cooperative, okay, so we're part of the Co-op Society, not the bank, it has to be said. You know, and that part of the school being at the centre of the community is massive to me. You know, lovely. We got got a Hot for Harlow award just recently because of the community focus that we have. I want this school to be busy all day, every day. You know, Saturdays, Sundays, evenings, because that means the community is coming in the door. They might also be parents who didn't necessarily have a good experience of school and are loath to go into schools. We have a lot of those, you know. But just if they're coming in here because they're playing five-a-side, or they're coming to the church on a Sunday, or they're coming to the Polish school or whatever, they're breaking that barrier down and getting them into the community. This is a community resource. It was paid for with community money. Essex Local Authority paid for this building. Therefore, Essex people need to get the most out of it.
And you must have other plans. I mean, your fields are all dug up at the moment.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
So what's happening there?
We've invested £250,000 in the building. Brand new building, we invested £250,000 this summer. It comes from Sports Day last year. The year before, the first year we were in here, we couldn't use the field for Sports Day because it was hammering down, so we did indoor Sports Day. Last year it was sunny, but we had a very wet and snowy winter, I'm sure you remember, and then a very hot, quick summer. And so what had happened is our field had been rutted and suffered the damage of the winter, and then rock solid with London clay. And so we were out doing Sports Day, and I just looked at it and thought, this isn't good enough, for the kids to. We want them to really achieve and aspire in Sports Day, not to take part as well, and that's important, but we want the kids who want to perform at a good level to be able to do that, and they couldn't do it on the field. So I went to Scott Alderson, who's the facilities manager, and said, I want Wembley out there. I want that flat. I want it well drained. I want it flat. We've got a grass cricket wicket been installed. There's not a school in the town that has a grass cricket wicket that's maintained. So come this summer, Sports Day is when it's due to be ready. It's been seeded now. It will be flat. It will be well drained, and hopefully this summer, depending on how the cricket wicket bed's in, this summer, but certainly next summer, on a Saturday you'll drive past a Harlow school and there'll be club cricket going on the field. Another great message for this community.
Going off subject for a second, but you mentioned sport and your background as a PE teacher. Yeah. Harlow used to, not going too far, well I'm going very far back, the 70s, most football pitches per acre in Europe. You'd see cross-country leagues in schools, that line of students jogging across the countryside and around it.
And the ones hiding underneath the bus pass or whatever,
Yeah.
they existed still in those days.
Yeah, American. What is the state of sport in Harlow? Is it as good as effervescent as it should be?
No, I'm probably the worst person to ask that question because I'm a PE snob. I think that it's very difficult because as a young person, sport was why I went to school. People will come to school for different reasons, for social reasons, for education. I went because I could play sport all day, and that was the big thing for me. I think the inter-school sport's not of a high enough standard. I think there's an issue with commitment to it, not from the staff. My staff will be here before school, lunchtime, after school, but actually for some of the young people to understand, to be excellent. There's a 10,000 hour rule sort of thing. How long it takes to be a mastery of anything. You've got to put the commitment in, and I think I'm not certain that there's that drive is there from parents. Football rules, still football rules. Weekend football rules. I've worked in the schools, just about every other school I've worked in before this one. We did Saturday sport. I ran camps on a Sunday to get people in. That doesn't seem to be what the community wants. They're enjoying their football, and that's very important to them. But actually, to get that next level of motivation, that next level of dedication to being outstanding at something, is a little bit few and far between, I think, which is a real shame. I don't quite know how we encourage that, apart from going down to primaries and getting them involved in more activities and more sport, and getting them to fall in love with sport at an earlier age. And that's a challenge for primary schools. When the teachers in a primary school may have 4 hours training before they go into being a qualified teacher in PE, and then they're expected to deliver quality PE lessons. That's unfair. I wouldn't expect somebody who had 4 hours training to be a heart surgeon. It's nonsense. So there's a long way. I think there's a long way to go with sport in the town. It's one of my biggest bugbears, really.
We mentioned the school, and actually I was passing the car park, and it's a very busy car park, and it's Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
And I guess this is a very busy school, and all the schools are busy. Is there a case maybe not this year, in 5 years, for another senior school in Harlow?
I think, if you look at the numbers, certainly, if you look at the early years foundation, your sort of reception class numbers, they're struggling. Essex are having to, school just over the road is about to go to 2 form entry, I think. That's it, there's not enough places for young people. So as they come through to secondary, either there's going to need to be an expansion of the secondary schools we've got. This building was built with unfinished ends, so it can be carried on, or there could possibly be a need for another school. I think that would be depending on how far forward Essex plan. I think it's there. We can all see sort of 2020, 2021, that sort of time it's going to be tight in Harlow. So I hope Essex are planning ahead for that.
But are you excited? We talk about all these contentious housing developments, Summers, Latten, Gildon Way, Gilston. Does that, and Junction at 7A, etc. Does that excite you?
I think the impact of the community has got to be. I don't live in Harlow anymore. I used to live in Harlow. I don't live in Harlow anymore. I live just outside. I think the impact of those housing developments on the community is something that needs to be planned for. People need to be listened to. Obviously, to have enough young people to fill all the schools in Harlow, we haven't got that at the moment. All the secondary schools in Harlow would be nice. It could relieve some tensions around competitions that always happens between secondary schools at the transfer age. But I think the impact on the community is something that only those people in the community would know. There is an element of fear of change in anywhere. I don't want the NIMBY syndrome, not in my backyard, but it would just be more children to serve. So whether it's new housing, old housing, there's a population boom. It's just nice to have enough young people to fill the schools. So maybe that element of competition which is being pushed at the moment in education isn't quite as edgy as it can be at times.
And I guess some people say head teachers, like any top professionals, have a shelf life.
Yeah.
What's your shelf life?
Well, that's really interesting because Tim Brighouse, who's a fantastic education writer, talks about the stages of headship, and he says sort of 7 years, 3 to 7 years is the optimum time for a head, unless they sort of sort of develop themselves, like David Bowie, and I think that's I'm approaching that end of that cycle, that end of that 7 years, and Steve Mumby used to be head of National College, spoke about how headship is like buying a new house. When you buy a new house, the first thing you do is write a list of all the jobs that need to be done. And actually, if you took that list out in 4, 5, 6 years' time and looked at the list, it wouldn't be finished. Because 2 things happen. Either you run out of money, or you stop noticing the crack in the bathroom. And I think for me, the moment I stop noticing the crack, I hope there's somebody around me that will tell me that. I have a very challenging leadership team who don't just say yes. My governors are challenging too. So I think probably if I took my eye off the ball and wasn't the right person to move the school forward, I think somebody would tell me. I hope they would. I certainly think I'd feel that if I thought that I couldn't do the job and make this community better. But it's an interesting one. I've been very fortunate. I've sort of had a rebirth when we moved from one site to the other. The school was a different place. For me, I have no intention of, they're going to carry me out of this place in a box. That's where I am. I love working in this school. I love this community. So, what do I leave for? The last couple of years, I've had plenty of opportunities to, people sending me letters saying, are you going to apply for this job, sort of stuff, and here's the salary package. So I could have probably doubled my money in the last couple of years, but I can only work so hard. I give everything I've got to this school. To get paid double, they're going to not want me to work half as hard, are they? And really, when I kind of got the energy to do it here, that's what I'll be looking for, somewhere where I haven't got to work quite as hard or quite as many hours. So I hope that I've got a few years left in being here. I'm 45. I intend to be able to do it at 55. I don't really want to start again, if I'm honest. I just want to make sure that I can still do the job I can do here, really.
Vic, thank you very much for your time.